and this is Awani Tonight. Former Prime Minister Najib Razak's defence team will not be filing fresh submissions in his final SRC international appeal. And how should we implement targeted subsidies? More on that coming up. Former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak's defence team will not be filing fresh submissions in his final SRC international appeal. Lead counsel Hisham Tepote also says he is in no position to participate in the current proceedings, citing time constraints. Hisham had applied to discharge himself as Najib's counsel this morning, but his request was denied by the federal court. Hisham previously told the court he would be relying based on submissions filed by Najib's former counsel Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah before the Court of Appeal. He later conveyed that the defence wished to file fresh written submissions when the hearing resumed in the afternoon. Chief Justice Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat broke from convention earlier today by ordering the prosecution to present its case first to allow more time for Najib's new legal team to prepare their case. The court has fixed August 15th to 26th to hear Najib's appeal in his bid to quash his convictions for abuse of power, money laundering and criminal breach of trust over 42 million ringgit of SRC funds. The Health Ministry plans to implement a zero-bullying policy at all its offices and facilities. According to Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, this comes after a survey where 20% of officers and staff reported cases of bullying. Although 60% of the 110,411 respondents described the ministry's work culture as positive, Khairi said the results still indicated that bullying and harassment were prevalent at certain health facilities. The minister added that prior to the survey, he had already received anecdotal evidence of bullying by senior doctors at ministry facilities. Further details on the Health Ministry's plans to tackle the issue will be announced next week. In a report released yesterday, the Healthcare Work Culture Improvement Task Force confirmed incidents of bullying, burnout and unhealthy work cultures within the ministry, but at different levels and not in all health facilities. Based on its findings, it reported that bullying occurred not only among housemen, but for all levels of employees of the ministry. The government does not need to wait for a federal court decision to change the federal constitution in order to allow automatic citizenship to children born overseas to Malaysian mothers. In a tweet, lawyer Latifah Koya instead blamed the government for their perceived lack in political will.
Latifah said it's as simple as adding the words "or mother" to Para 1B and Para 1C of the Federal Constitution to end discrimination against Malaysian mothers in citizenship laws. Yesterday, de facto Law Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar said the matter is beyond the power of the government and needed to wait for the federal court's decision on the case and involve the Conference of Rulers. He said the government is waiting for all appeals to be exhausted first before moving on the matter. The Court of Appeal earlier this month overturned the High Court's 2021 landmark decision to allow Malaysian mothers the same rights as Malaysian fathers to confer citizenship by operation of law.
The Finance Ministry has invited the public to participate in a survey on its plans to introduce targeted subsidies. We asked economist Dr. Carmelo Ferlito for his take on how best to approach the subject.
Probably the best way to approach the reform is, rather than working on targeted subsidies, working on vouchers and bonuses and cash hands out at this regard. So to make it simple, let's say that all the services and goods that the government now provides under subsidized prices are in general provided at market price, okay? But the people that are actually in the need either receive bonuses, vouchers to be utilized for these purchases, or benefit from targeted prices according to their tax return, according to their actual income. But I believe that this second method may be more difficult to be implemented and more difficult to be controlled, while simply giving a certain amount of money to people that are in the needs may be the easiest way to approach the issue, but starting with market prices for goods and services that are now subsidized.
In making sure assistance is properly received by the targeted groups, Carmelo stressed the role of MPs and local governments in enforcement as well as monitoring.
Probably this could be a task that has been entrusted to the MPs in the different constituencies and through their territorial offices to be able to monitor and this distribution and to inform the people. This can also be a way to get the MPs more in touch with their voters, so to create a stronger link between politics and the people. Alternatively, this could be enforced by the local governments, so the state and the city halls and etc.
In the long term, the government should look at addressing poverty and moving away from subsidies. Carmelo suggests for the government to improve social mobility and focus on entrepreneurship as a more sustainable strategy to eradicate poverty.
The key change that we need to make in order to properly address the issue of poverty is a shifting from giving resources to the poor to create the conditions so that the poor can earn the resources they need. So from money transfer, from cash transfer to social mobility. And social mobility can properly addressed if we find a way to promote entrepreneurship. This is, in a nutshell, the way in which I think the issue of poverty should be approached. Obviously, the history of mankind demonstrates that a certain degree of poverty probably will always be there. We don't live in a perfect world, but the history of the development, the economic development of the past 200 years demonstrated that promoting political and economic freedoms, political and economic liberties is the main driver for promoting also income growth among the poorer segments of the population.
We will go for a quick break. Stay with us.
Ini masanya untuk Asia bangkit. Kami bawakan diskusi mengenai pasca pandemik, pemulihan ekonomi, teknologi tinggi, perubahan iklim dan banyak lagi. Saksikan agenda Awani Asia bersama pakar dan koresponden Asia kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di Astro Awani.
Keluarga ini membayar RM290 untuk satu malam di hotel. Keluarga ini membayar RM240 semalam untuk bilik yang sama. Bagaimana? Trivago memaparkan harga daripada ratusan laman tempahan di seluruh dunia, memudahkan anda membandingkan tawaran. Hotel Trivago.
COVID-19 memperlihatkan kepada kita betapa pantasnya adaptasi teknologi di kalangan PKS kita. Niaga Awani dan Unify Business akan menyelami perjalanan kebangkitan semula PKS kita melalui segmen Jiwa SME setiap Selasa dan Khamis untuk inspirasi anda.
Transformasikan perniagaan dengan Unify Business, rakan digital pilihan anda. Hubungi kami sekarang dan jimat sehingga 50%. Jom Unify Business.
Welcome back. A bombing at a mosque in the Afghan capital of Kabul has killed at least 21 people and wounded another 33. As of now, no group has claimed responsibility for the attack, the latest to strike the country in the year since the Taliban seized power. The Taliban claims to have full control over Afghanistan, but the Islamic State IS terror group continues carrying out attacks across the country. Earlier this month, 2 deadly blasts in Kabul took the lives of 10 people and injured 40 others. According to reports, the IS claimed responsibility for both attacks. Over in China, 16 people died and 36 others are reported missing from flash floods in northwest China. A sudden downpour on Wednesday night triggered mudslides and even caused a river to change course.
The catastrophe affected more than 6,200 people from 6 villages, with rescue work ongoing. The floods occurred in the mountainous region of Datong County in Qinghai Province. A video feed of the aftermath by state media showed roads covered in mud, uprooted trees, damaged homes, and rescue workers carrying shovels. This comes during a summer of extreme weather in China, with multiple cities recording hottest days on record.
While in New Zealand, torrential rain slammed the west and north of the country's South Island for a third straight day today. Hundreds of people were forced to evacuate their homes, with heavy rain triggering road and school closures and landslips.
Authorities said more than 230 homes in Nelson, a city with a population of more than 50,000, were evacuated, with many public facilities and roads closed. Weather forecasts show parts of the north of the South Island received more than 300 millimeters of rain in the past 24 hours. It has heavy rain warnings in place for parts of the west of the South Island and in the north of the North Island. Nelson City Council warned that continuing rain could mean more landslips, flooding, and evacuations. The latest rainstorms are worsening conditions in New Zealand's already sodden landscape. Experts attribute the unseasonably wet weather to a narrow stream of water vapor or an atmospheric river sitting above the country.
A Hong Kong court today lifted restrictions on reporting pre-trial proceedings of a landmark national security case. The case involved 47 pro-democracy campaigners that has dragged on for more than a year.
The decision comes a day after the lifting of a reporting restriction for another national security case involving the now disbanded Hong Kong Alliance, a major civil society group behind the candlelit vigils commemorating victims of the Tiananmen Square massacre. The case has been repeatedly delayed as prosecutors requested more time to prepare, with only 13 of the defendants granted bail. The 47 democracy activists were arrested in a citywide dawn raid in February 2021 over their involvement in an unofficial primary election in 2020 the authorities said was a plot to paralyze Hong Kong's government. So far, 29 of the 49 have pleaded guilty, including legal scholar Benny Tai and pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong.
The remains of 2 young children were found in 2 suitcases bought at auction in New Zealand. Local police vowed to track down those responsible for the deaths.
Today's update will be extremely upsetting for the community to hear. So I can confirm we're dealing with the bodies of 2 young children. From the post-mortem examination, it would appear they were of primary school age. At this stage, I have no further information about their exact age, but we're working on it. Their bodies were concealed in 2 suitcases of similar size.
He said that the bodies were likely to have been in storage for several years, and the victims are thought to have been between 5 and 10 years old when they died. The remains were found when an unsuspecting family bought a trailer load of items being auctioned off in bulk from a storage unit in South Auckland. Investigations into the case are still ongoing.
Following yet another multi-billion ringgit scandal, will the LCS project serve as a wake-up call for government to reform the public procurement system? Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests if the scandal will prove an impetus for reform. That is all we have for you on Awani Tonight. I'm Vanashe. Thank you for watching.